for listening. I'm Jenny. I'm a life coach, and today I'm talking about the stages of awakening. Um, so, so when we go through trauma, it impacts our self-worth, how we view the world, our ability to trust, and how our immune system and our nervous system functions. Um, Going through an awakening process, we're rewiring all of these things. It's really intense. Um, but it's it's so important and so profound. And people who have gone through this kind of experience all kind of speak their own special language. Um, and so it's not always something you can just choose. Usually, sometimes it's something that kind of happens to you, but it comes when you start to look deeper, when you start to question things, when you become more aware. And so, whether you're ready for an awakening process or not, we can all at least become a little bit more aware. Pain can only be muted. Um, and most of us need help with this step. It cannot be created or destroyed. It can be not be numbed or avoided. It can only be transmuted through love, through honesty, through vulnerability, and through connection. Post traumatic growth allows us to make meaning from our suffering and see how our suffering taught us lessons, skills, and brought us to deeper levels of consciousness. People who have gone through an awakening process, who have gone through post traumatic growth, come out of it with heightened creativity, an ability to use creativity to self express and to channel difficult emotions. They have a deeper sense of empathy for other people and an inner knowing that everyone is fighting some sort of battle on this earth. They have increased spiritual awareness that life has meaning, that we are not meant to just sleepwalk through life and die. They have a call towards a life of purpose and helping others. They have more awareness and of living life in alignment with their values. They have an appreciation for life, for the journey that brought them here, what brought us to our present experience. They have higher levels of resilience, and they are able to be resourceful and more capable in the face of adversity. People who have gone through an awakening process are the best healers out there because they've had to do it themselves. They've already been on this journey. Uh, there are many different stages to the awakening process, and they don't always go in order. But I'm going to give you a rough outline of what this looks like. Stage one is suffering. Before you can change, you have to suffer. um, and then with suffering, be you have to surrender. You have to be desperate. To be desperate, you have to be in pain. And so, very often, suffering is a necessary step to this process, especially for stubborn people. Stubborn people usually have to go through a lot more pain and a lot more suffering to trigger their awakening process than people who are less stubborn. Healing is painful. It won't feel good, but you will feel more alive. Um, Ghosts are real, but they're not spooky spirits. They're unprocessed, repressed events and emotions. They don't haunt our homes, they haunt our memories and our bodies. And your past is valid, but you can't overcome it until you stop living there, until you stop living in the haunted house of your past. And so all those things that you've buried, you now have to process, or you face a crisis where your suffering becomes so intense and deep that you have no choice but to face it. At some point, we reach our emotional rock bottom or the dark night of the soul. This is usually happens when we experience a crisis, a loss, deep suffering. This could be a death, a divorce, a crisis, a betrayal, or any deeply painful experience that makes us start to question everything. We go through a period of complete confusion and hopelessness. We start to question what the point of everything is and realize our level of disconnection with ourselves. It's confusing, it's overwhelming, but it's also a time when you wake up from sleepwalking through life. Um, you stop living on autopilot programming. Um, you realize how you've been conditioned to perform, to achieve, and to seek external things to make you happy or to feel worthy of being loved. Once we start to see this, there's usually some resistance, some pre contemplation, because change is really hard and it will feel really hard. But resistance is also futile. It's why you're here. And your essence wants to be challenged. Your soul is here to learn hard lessons. And so if you resist, you'll eventually get pushed off the cliff anyway. The next step is contemplation and desire, contemplating change, craving more emotional intimacy and authentic relationships, even if you don't know how to get there. And then a stage of hope and faith, belief that a different life is possible, a willingness to embrace difficult emotions, difficult memories, um, a willingness to surrender to the influence of something greater than yourself. This is required for any kind of change. This is how hypnosis works. Hypnosis requires willing participants who are ready to surrender to influence, and the awakening process works the same way. Willingness and surrender, acknowledging the severity of the problem, realizing how powerless you are, and recognizing that you cannot do it on your own, letting go of the illusion of control, and then asking for help and trusting. Learning how to trust other people. Sometimes help will find you, but very often you have to ask for it. You start to build a team of trusted advisors because in the beginning, you're going to be stuck in a very low vibration of guilt, a very low vibration of shame. You need other people's energy to siphon almost, to siphon off of, to help pull you out of that quicksand, those lower energy fields. People who have been on the journey before. They will help you start to gain knowledge and build more awareness of your repeating patterns. uh, Awareness and then re-experiencing your trauma as an observer. This is when old emotions start to dislodge from the body. It comes with a lot of grief. It comes with a lot of anger. You might even go through the stages of grief with denial, anger, bargaining, depression. Um, you will start to have old memories. You will cry more often. It's important to let all of those feelings come out. They've been locked away, frozen in your body. And this is a stage where they start to come up and out of your body. It's a time when we become more honest with ourselves. Um, we learn how to just exist or see things as neutral or view things from a state of neutral observation. We find meaning behind our pain and we start understanding why all of these things needed to happen. Another stage is the cocoon stage, a point when we're called inward. This is a time when we want to be alone, when we want to disconnect from the noise of society, when we feel a pull to disappear. We might not enjoy the things that we used to, or old interests might come back, old interests from childhood. We continue to question everything. We evaluate our core beliefs, reevaluate our core beliefs, our conditioned patterns, our internalized shame, our past traumas, and we begin to understand who we are beyond this conditioning and these expectations. We awaken to our patterns. We stop sleepwalking through life, and we may lose friendships. There may be other shifts in our lives. We may be interested, become curious about learning new things, learning new skills. a new desire to travel or explore. We break dysfunctional patterns. We become aware of dysfunction that society is viewing as normal. We are bored with small talk. And this is a point where we feel the most lonely. This is a point where friends might not understand us. They may expect us to continue playing the same role that we always have in their lives. Our family may also do this. Relationships will change, they will shift, they will end. And this is where we meet ourselves, where we create a new value system, a new identity. We start to develop self trust. We start to crave emotional intimacy and more authentic relationships. Throughout this process, we finally arrive at self acceptance. This is a place of deep honesty, of seeing reality for what it is, where we can embrace and see the darkest parts of ourselves. And by embracing them, they actually start to chill out. We have an ability to sit with discomfort. We have an ability to release judgment. We have heightened levels of awareness, heightened levels of acceptance, of accepting ourselves. Um, there's a paradox that once you accept yourself as you are, then you can change. um, Self compassion, forgiveness, letting go of resentment, um, and self protection, having strong boundaries, reclaiming your power, focusing on controlling yourself and letting go of trying to control others, taking radical responsibility for our lives, learning humility and that we don't know what we don't know, deep accountability, more patience, the release of bitterness, resentment, fear, guilt, and shame. Um, as we learn, the more knowledge that we acquire, the more we gain exposure to the immense unknown and how little we actually know. And then we eventually are able to integrate this new identity, integrate these new lessons. Um, we experience natural instead of forced lifestyle changes. What do I mean by this? Eating healthier, exercising more is usually a conscious, more forced choice. But through this integration, those types of lifestyle changes are more like side effects. You start to do them just because it's what feels good. It's all internal. There's no external factors or feeling like you should do these things. They just start to happen naturally. There's more meaning in your life. You feel permission to be more authentic. You get comfortable with setting boundaries and not caring about hearing things like you're selfish or you've changed, because you have changed. Um, you feel more flow, more serendipity, more ease, a greater sense of play, and a heightened connectedness to the world around you. uh, Community. You start to find other people who are more in alignment with this new identity. You might be called to help other people heal and improve their lives, to build community, to be more creative, to follow your vision, to have deeper relationships, and then acts of service. Um, a lot of empaths who haven't gone through the awakening process are already helping people, already putting others first. But this level of service comes after you are putting yourself first. Um, and so your homework is to write down all of your coping mechanisms, um, good coping mechanisms, bad coping mechanisms, write them all down, and then circle what the healthy ones are or the ones that come naturally. And think about, what are you using the negative coping mechanisms for? What are you trying to avoid? What uncomfortable feelings, what uncomfortable thoughts, what societal issues are you using these coping mechanisms for? And just be aware of it. That's it. You don't have to get rid of it. You don't have to do anything about it. Just be aware of it. Think about your coping mechanisms, circle the healthy ones, be aware of what the negative ones are. That's it. Just be aware. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you want more information, there's links in the description. Have a good day.